Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. How is everyone doing? Happy Hump Day. It took me until today to recover from the weekend. I feel like I'm back 100% now today. So happy to be back at it. I just finished this article on Yahoo Sports. In fact, I'm going to try something a little different today. If you're on YouTube, I'm going to pull up the article here. It was for those on the podcast. I'll just explain it. It was Tom Brady and Peyton Manning ranking their current top 5 NFL QBs. So interesting to of course Brady, he's the GOAT, right? I mean, he is the absolute GOAT. And Peyton, who is I'd say somewhat of a GOAT himself, right? But he never really got as much love as Tom did. But so it's interesting, these guys who are looking back, not looking back, but looking now to these quarterbacks and who they feel, are the top players, in the QBs right now in the NFL. So according to Tom here, you see he's got Mahomes at number 1, Josh Allen at number 2, Lamar Jackson at 3, Joe Burrow at 4, and he wouldn't pick a 5th. He just said, I'll stop at 4. I'll leave it at that. And then you got Peyton, who kind of agrees with him, with Mahomes, different order, right? We have Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Burrow, and Manning has Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, Jackson, Allen, right? So Herbert's the other one added onto this list. So here's 2 guys, right? Who's they're ranking top 5, QBs in the NFL, right? So it's would we think the same top 4 or 5 QBs that their current card prices should reflect their talent? Right? I mean, if we agreed with what they said on these, so should those top 4 or 5 guys, so should their cards, for as far as NFL quarterbacks, be more than anybody else, right? Is the card value a reflection of talent? I mean, we can probably agree that Patrick Mahomes is, right? I mean, his cards hold the most value, but then what happens from there, right? Would we have to believe, if we were looking at fantasy rankings, right? So now I'm talking fantasy football for the upcoming season, and what we know of the card prices, and are the prices based, right? Our card prices are based on how well or how poorly a QB is playing or will play, right? If they're speculating for the season, right? So could we go to those rankings, right? And say, okay, and I'm just going to pull it up here. So now if you're listening, I've got on the screen here, Yahoo is listed, they're what they feel are the fantasy quarterbacks in order. So Josh Allen again, right? So Josh Allen is at number 1. So we saw him on that list with the 2, Peyton and Tom Brady. He's in there, right? So he's listed as number 1. So we would have to think that with these 2 guys saying he's one of our top 5 quarterbacks, and Yahoo Fantasy saying he's our number 1 guy, right? We would have to think, wow, Josh Allen, I mean, he's going to play unbelievable this year, or he's going to have this great year. And should we be investing into it? Maybe we should be, right? Maybe something's coming that we don't know. But if we looked even at the top 10 here, on the fantasy list, we got Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott. Right, that's your top 10 right there, as far as what Yahoo and gives a list of all the people who are suggesting and pulling out and saying, you know, where these people rank on there, right? So, I mean, if we were to go by these rankings, right, from a couple goats who've ranked them now to people who are ranking, the fantasy football rankings. These are professionals, right, who are compiling these rankings with the belief of the performances that these quarterbacks are going to have this year, right? And I know these rankings are based on individual performances and supporting casts around these quarterbacks, right? But the higher the QB is ranked, the higher the performance they're expecting, right, from these quarterbacks. So if the professionals are expecting high performances from these quarterbacks, should we assume that their card prices, they're going to rise based on these performances? Should we assume that if everybody's thinking that these guys are going to do well this year, should these be the guys we're investing in as far as cards? I mean, if they're saying that these are the guys, right, they must be expecting great season from them this year. So should we be buying these cards? Should we be out buying Josh Allen cards? Yeah, I don't think people are. I don't think people are racing out there to buy them. Um, I mean, I know there's some diehard people, and there's some people that believe that, maybe, and we could call him a dark horse, right? I mean, not really a dark horse, but Josh Allen, his prices rose uh, so high a couple of years ago, and they just dropped, right? And it's never made it back, right? And then you get a guy like Brock Purdy, right, who goes to the Super Bowl, and his cards never really, they never really spike or drop. They just kind of stay there. And in that list, they had him ranked at 12. He was the fantasy, ranked 12th as far as a quarterback. So where do we find our dark horses, right? Where do we find guys we're going to invest in? I mean, how do we go about saying this is going to be the year for this quarterback or that quarterback? Um, History tells us every year there's one or two emerging quarterbacks that start off the season very low, and their prices rise based on their performance, right? But beyond that, I mean, we go into this season saying, look, we have top 5, 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks that we're going to buy, sell, flip, right? As far as the card market goes. Uh, and I don't think any of them are going to have massive increases. Right? I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he is at the top right now. I mean, as far as the prices go on cards, and he's won Super Bowls. He's considered the best quarterback in the NFL. So his prices are at the top. And then everybody else is coming up, to hit where do we match them? I was just watching a video the other day, and the guy says, look, just rank this on a scale of 1 to 10. So the guy, he says, oh, it's a 10. He goes, it can't be a 10. He goes, then we've got nothing else to do. I mean, if that's a 10, what happens then when something comes by and tastes a little better or looks a little better or it's a little bit, it can't be a 10, right? And it can't be a 9.5, right? You've got to figure that out. You have to figure out when you're ranking these people where they rank. So we've got the ceiling, right? We've got Patrick Mahomes there, and now we have to build up people up against him to say, what are these values? Where are they going? And I know it's a lot based on who's going to pay, how much people are going to pay for the card. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Anybody can make a price on a card, but it's what people want to pay for it. I talked about a few quarterbacks that I've been buying this year. Um, no dark horses by any means, and certainly no surprise to anybody. But a lot of my information, where I'm getting my information, just really comes from observations at card shows. Who are people looking for? Who are people asking for? Who are they trying to buy? Um, and then on the other end, who are who are people willing to pay, closer to full comps on, and then there's the opposite. Who are the people just trying to get rid of? Who are the people look desperate, like they're trying to push cards off? Um, and who are people just saying, look, I'll pay 70 or 75%, but that's the best I'll do. And really not even fight for it. If you say no, they just kind of walk off. They're like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm not paying any more than that. And I understand that. I understand that whole mentality on that. Because I'm like that on the other side of the table. I've talked to a lot of people who really don't want to be in any big cards right now. I mean, they really don't want to be in big cards right now, and are messaging me, hey, I've got this card. Are you interested? Anybody's interested? I'm willing to trade down on it. If you know anybody, I'll give them a good. And I see that. I see people are getting a little nervous that they're sitting on big cards, and they're like, I made this investment, and I don't think it's going to work out for me, and they're getting a little scared on the big cards. Um, and I know how they feel. I'm moving out of my big cards. I'm not desperate to get out, but I'm moving out. It's been working out for me. I've been trading down on my big cards, and happy to do it. Um, but being very selective of what cards I'm trading for. Right? When I say I'm happy to do it, I'm not just taking any card because I want to get out of the big card. I've turned down a lot of trades because I'm being very selective of the cards I'm taking in. I don't want somebody else's stale cards, right? I don't want another lower end card that I'm not going to be able to move either, or I may lose money on it. Um, and I've learned, when somebody's at my table trying to trade up, even if I like the cards that are being offered in the deal, right? Even if I look and say, hey, this is probably a pretty fair deal. I kind of like these cards. I may be able to move them, but if I feel on one card or anything there, if I feel like I'm just not sure, right? I let the other person know I'm a little uninterested, right? That it's possibly this card or something other, something about the deal that's just off to me, and I'm probably going to be kind of out on the deal. Um, And I've noticed now, every time I've done that, there always seems to be a better card still in the case, still in the pocket, right? All of a sudden, somewhere down the line, that case will be coming out. I mean, another card will be coming out. There's always one more card. Uh, my tip to you, make sure if you're doing this, if you are trading down, um, make sure you have all the information and know all the cards before you accept the deal, even if the cards look good. I was doing a deal this last weekend at Fishtown. I was happy with the cards and the cash being offered in the deal. I took my time. I looked the cards over again. I recomped the cards. I said I wasn't sure. And really, the reason I wasn't, because one of the cards was a Burrow. It was an auto. Uh, it was a rookie card. It was in an SGC slab. Um, it was a lower end set, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I really want this card or not. I said, I think I might be kind of out on this card. Um, the card was comping pretty low, right? I'm not a fan of SGC, so there's a lot of things I can say here. Uh, I was also afraid I might get stuck with that card. one bad report from Joe Burrow coming back from injury, that card could drop quickly. So after a few minutes, the guy said, hold on. He opened his case and he pulled out a better Burrow auto rookie PSA 9, right? All right, there it is. And this card comped out much better than the other one. That's what I was waiting for. That pushed me over the edge to say, okay, we can get this deal done now, because that card there is going to be a much easier sell for me. And in fact, that card in my case, I could have sold it a number of times that day there if I wanted to on Sunday. So the deal was the same, and I got a much better, Burrow auto. So that worked out for me. I'm not a big fan of Burrow this year. I'm really not. I had a number of his high-end cards that I've worked my way out of all of them. I had 3 high-end cards. I worked my way out of all 3. I'm happy to be out of them. And I know people, on Burrow, people, it's a love-hate relationship on him, right? People are either all in on him or they're all out on him. And if you're at shows, you hear that, oh, last time he came back from season-ending injury, he went to the Super Bowl. So that this year he's going to go to the Super Bowl. Then you have the people on the other side are like, oh, that hand thing, I don't know if he's going to get back from that. It's too many injuries. This is twice in 3 years or whatever it's been, 4 years that he's been season-ending injuries. Will he be able to sustain that? So people are really either in on him, they're out on him. I was in on him big time last year. That's how I end up with big cards and didn't move out of them. He ended up getting hurt. I sat on those cards all year, right? Put them aside, sat on them, took them out when the time was right, and was able to make good deals on them. I didn't get scared. I was happy to hold. This year, right? So I've been in on Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, right? These are the 2 guys I've been on the most. I love Mahomes, and I'd love to be in on his cards, and I have a handful of his cards. The prices are just so high right now, and I find it hard to move some of them because people come in and they're really, because the comps, they're so widespread on his cards. People just want to look at the lowest comp. This card sold, well, it sold here at 900, but the last one sold at 1200. But I'm going to offer you 800, right? It's so hard to own a Mahomes card and go set up at shows, especially when the comps are all over the place on those cards. And I'm happy not to be in on them right now. I have a few of his cards that are my PC that I just put aside, I put away. Like, I don't take them out. I don't put them in my case. I don't bring them to shows. They just sit at home, right? They don't need to go anywhere. And I'm happy to look at them. They're my cards. I'm happy to look at them, and they're not for sale. But as far, when I get an option to get into his cards, I feel like the people who are buying the cars from me on the other side of the table, where they really feel, I really need to get into this car at a good deal so I can move it because of what the comps look like on it. And I understand that. That's why I don't end up with many of his cards. I did one trade at SoCo where I ended up with one of his cards. I did another trade with a Military Breaker, listener of the show, friend of the show, with a couple of his cards, and I moved those as well, right? I was able to move those cards. He gave me a good deal. It was a good deal for me to just to move on with them. But besides that, I just find it hard to sell Mahomes cards, to try to flip those cards. It's a lot of work, and I think if you're out there and you're at the shows and you're trying to flip, I think you understand exactly what I'm saying when it comes to him. As far as the 2023 rookie class, I think Stroud's prices are very high. Like, I really, as soon as the season starts, I see them coming down. No matter how well or poorly he plays, I still think those prices have come down. That's just me from what I've seen over the last few years with this. Um, I think Richardson, if he does well, his cards still have room to grow a little bit. There could be value, and if he does exceptionally well, there could be a lot more value because people love to be really high on somebody. They really do. We love to be high on Stroud from last year and Richardson. He started out well, he got hurt, and you know, I see his cards being bought and sold daily, and whether it's on Facebook and Instagram and at the shows, and we really don't have, we really haven't seen much of him, right? We know that all the talent's there, and he could do very well or not, right? So we don't know, but I still think his cards would have, a decent room to grow. As far as Levis, I think his cards are so low right now. If he went out and did well, his cards um, really could have some room to grow, and he'd be another one that people would be happy to be all in on if he came out and played exceptionally well. Um, the problem is, I think the downside on these guys are greater than the upside. Uh, so for me, I've tried to move all them before the season starts. Right? I've done pretty well. I think I, probably have a handful of cards of these three players right now, um, but I'm happy to move out of them. I know for me it's the safer play, and I know you hear people say all the time, the higher the risk, the higher reward, the higher the reward. You know, but also the higher the losses, right? If it doesn't work out, and I don't want to be on that side. And I said it, I just said it. I think the downside on all three of those players is greater than the upside. So if I'm into a card, well, whether I graded it or I purchased it, and I can move out of that card, I'm doing so before the season starts, and sleeping like a baby at night, right? Sleeping like not worrying about any of it. Uh, so who has the upside this year? Well, if we go back to the beginning of what I said, from Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and all the guys at Yahoo Sports. I mean, Josh Allen, right? I guess he has the most upside, right? If we believe in all that stuff. Uh, are I mean, are people going to start making that investment? Have people who invested in him 2 years ago when the value was high, have they hung on to those cards and hoped for a better day, right? Lamar Jackson, is he another one? I mean, he they get to the playoffs, but they don't seem to get past it. So is that hurting him? Is that going to keep his value down and keep people away from his cards, saying, he just can't get there. He can't get past Mahomes. He can't get past the Chiefs. There's things that he just can't do. As good as he is, and as good as that team is. Um, I haven't even mentioned Bryce Young, right? The number one. I know people are going that, the number one pick in the draft last year, right? Is certainly a talented kid. I mean, are they going to be able to do something with him there? Does his prices have room if he comes out and plays well? Could he be a dark horse? Could he, you know, do well, and his prices go up? I can honestly say I've stashed a bunch of his cards hoping that would pay off, right? And you saw, I picked one up last week in at Fishtown, another nice card. You know what? If the price is right and I can pick them up, you know, when I say the price is right, means that I could probably get out of it exactly what I put into it, right? On the safe side. And on the positive side, he goes out and plays well, that card could go up in value. He could go out and play terrible, and my safe side, that could fall out. That the price of that could go down. But I try to buy cards at a price where I think that is the bottom, right? And I'm not buying big cards, right? I'm buying affordable cards. I'll call them affordable cards. Ones you don't mind buying and throw them in a box, next to all the other guys that didn't pan out. the save for later box. Um, what about Kyler Murray, right? With the addition of Marvin Harrison Jr., right? I mean, his cards are so low, it's probably the only place they have to go is up, right? And I even have a couple of his cards, right? Bought into them at a very low price. So again, cards that can only go up. I mean, he could stand to have a very good year this year, and we know he's had good years before, and his value of his cards have gone nowhere. So, how about Justin Herbert? Is there anybody left for him to throw the ball to? Right, he's got a new coach over there uh, with the Chargers, but who knows? I mean, he's another one on that list with, back at the beginning, we talked about on everybody's list, the Justin Herbert, but who knows? I mean, he's got talent, but are people out on him now? Have people gotten to a point like with Josh Allen, like they're like, oh, this is never going to work out. I'm just getting out of this, and I don't want to be in another one. Is that the way people feel? I know at the shows, I have Justin Herbert cards in my case, and I know people don't even look at them. They haven't even looked at them. They look at everybody else, but nobody's even asked questions, and they're nice cards. Nobody's asked anything, tried to negotiate any good price. So, here's a guy, and I say I'm learning, I'm getting my information from the shows. Here's a guy saying I don't think people are in on him this year. I think people are very out on him this year. So those will be a couple cards I'm either going to have for a long time, or I'm going to have and hope that he plays well and interest comes back with him, or they may end up being trade bait for something else. You have Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, right? Here's two quarterbacks in great situations, and I think no matter how well they play this year, I don't think the value of their cards will ever go up. Dak is another one who can't win a playoff game, right? So I don't think there's I'm not going to say any value, but much value in his cards, right? So from a card QB perspective, who is your flip? Who's your dark horse? Who are you buying and why? I said already, I bought into Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy because their prices were low. And most people back in the winter and spring, most people just seem to be out on both of them with their prices being so low. And I'm looking at comparing comps to when I was, buying these guys at the price I was getting and what the current comps were versus what their prices were going for during the football season. Um, I was happy. I was happy to buy those cards at those prices. And I moved a number of them already, got into them at a good price and got out of them at a good price. But I think most people at these shows are out chasing Strouds and Richardsons, right? I mean, these seem to be what everybody's chasing. These are the flash in the pan right now. But I feel both Hurts and Purdy, they're in really good positions to shine this year. And I think they're in excellent positions in their divisions to do very well. And I think either of them could easily be in the Super Bowl. And I think other people feel the same way on them. And I don't mind holding some of those cards till the season starts because I know what to expect from both of them. And barring injury, like Joe Burrow from last year, I will do absolutely fine on the cards that I have. So those are, to me, those are safe. Those are a safe bet for me. Not only to be in on the guys, be able to buy those guys at the end of last season and after this season at a discount, right? Because people were just kind of down on them then. and now move them when people are like, "Oh, wait a minute. These guys could win their division. These guys could go back to the Super Bowl. These guys are probably going to have a good season this year." And people are going to realize that and start jumping in on those cards. And we all know the card market, especially when people were down more recently on people, when they start playing well and they're winning, the higher the price of the cards. So I mentioned at the beginning, are there any dark horses out there? Does anybody have any dark horses? I mean, Sam Darnold, is this his year? Is this his year? Garner Minshew. I just picked up. If you remember, if you watch the show, you'll know. I don't know. I think it was last month, maybe 6 weeks ago or so, at the New Britain show. I think it was at um, the night show in Plainville, and I picked up the Garner Minshew Contenders auto, number to 99. I just got that back from PSA. It was a PSA 9, but hey, if he plays well, who knows? Maybe that price will go up. Maybe that'll be a good opportunity to move that card. Or who else could be a dark horse? Like another backup that we're not even thinking about right now because their starter is, guaranteed to start, that there may be an injury, it may be out for the season, and now they may assume a starting role. Hopefully Hendon Hooker, right? I don't wish anything bad on Jared Goff, but I I have a box full of RPAs and more of him. So just waiting for my opportunity to put those up for sale. And I'm sure there's a ton of other people just like me out there sitting on those, waiting for that as well. Well, let me know, who's your dark horses. Who do you think is going to emerge, out of this season that we're not expecting, and play well this year, and see their card market jump up. It's too bad that there's no value in any other position on the field for football, right? Because it just keeps us buying and selling the same players year after year with the addition of a few rookies, right? Flip, 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 flip. That's all we're doing. Just buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. And I've been very selective at shows on what cards I'll purchase or I'll trade into. Selective of the player, selective of the set. And this year, I even started looking back a whole year of sales, right, to see where the prices were before the season last year, during the season, at the end of the season last year, and how many of these cards are selling, what the pop counts are on these cards, right? I hate showing up at a show and being excited about selling a card, and I put it in my case and I find out there's 5 more of them in the room, right? Now I'm competing with other people in the room. So sometimes having, if you're buying into a card with a high pop count, if you're buying in right and it's a liquid card, you can move it that day. That's fine, right? But I don't want to buy a card like that to say, oh, I'm going to hold that card till next month. No. My goal is not to have any stale cards in my case. To me, buying football is over. I mean, the buying football was over in June. So anything I'm getting into is more, in my mindset, is just a quick flip. And unless I'm buying a card at a very good price that I know is liquid, that I can move quickly, right, and that I can get out of quickly, I'm not interested. I've been in that position. Every year I felt like I'd end up in that position. And it's usually right around now, between now and September, October, maybe, where you see a card is comping at like 2K, right? And then all of a sudden you start negotiating with somebody and they're like, they agree to like 1,600 on it or 1,620 or something. And you're like, oh, perfect. Like, I can't believe I got into this card so well, right? Only to find out a week later that a card just sells on eBay for 1,500. And then you're like, oh, great. Now I'm underwater on this card already. And it's on its way down. So That's why I don't wanna get into those I don't wanna get into now. Like, I'm happy to sell football, and I'm happy to keep it close to comps, right? Because that's what works for me, that's the business plan, but it's just not a good idea for me, you know, to be buying to anything longer than that day, right? Every card I purchased at Fishtown, I resold within 30 minutes. I mean, and that was being very selective to say, this is the right card, the right price, the right player. I put it in my case at this price, and I know it's going to sell. Um, I don't need to hit home runs on cards. I don't need to hit triples. I don't even need to hit doubles, right? I'm happy hitting singles, right? If it comes in on something like that, I'll swing a little bit for the fences, December through March, April, maybe into May. But after that, I'm happy with singles, right? I don't need to sit on cards and lose money on them. I'm happy to take them and move them quick. Home runs are for people who want to hold the cards longer term. And I'm happy to do that in December, January, February, March, but I can't be doing that in August and September. That's it. That's all I got for you today. This weekend, busy with family on Saturday. There is a show not too far away. I might hit early in the morning. And then there's some talk that I might meet up with people to go down to American Dream Mall, that show down there. Now, I set up at that show. I've only been to that show once. I set up at that the very first time they had a show there. That was Probstein's show. And since then it's Laz and Nick Slab Exchange who've been running this show, and I haven't been there. And if I get the opportunity Sunday, if things work out, I'm going to head down there on Sunday. But either way, I'll be back Monday with a brand new episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.